here I am on the next section of the animation. The first thing I want to do is to isolate my character and the rig from the environment. I will select both in object mode, and then I will press the slash key on the numpad. This allows me to enter local mode, which isolates the selected object from all the other, but only in the active 3D viewport. In my camera view, I can still see all the environment. The next step, as usual, is to select the main controller, the center of gravity of the character, and calculate its motion path. And then I will start by polishing the location curve, which are the more influential in the animation. I already have a pretty satisfying spacing from my broken, with a large spacing at the beginning of the jump and a tighter spacing at the apex of the jump. You can notice though that the jump arc is not really straight and has a strange curve. When a character is jumping, there are big chances that he can't change his direction during the jump. So basically, your X and Y location curve will mostly be linear or straight in the graph editor. This doesn't always apply. You can have variation depending on your camera angle and your fantasy or creativity. But if you want believable physicality, that's a good starting point. So I will just get rid of this useless point on my X and Y location curve. Theoretically, my Z location curve should be a perfect parabol. This will follow the same principle as the bouncing ball. But I also have to deal with what we see on camera. So it's fine to me, in this context, to have some irregularities on the curve here. Then there is this interesting moment where the character is trying to reach for the trident. And I want to add an extra hop on the apex of the jump. So I will push down a bit my curve the character was anticipating, and then I will break the curve as if he was bouncing in the air. This looks like as if I was animating a double jump. Basically, as he throws his fist up, he's pulled up by the inertia of the fist, let's say. From there, he will slowly lose altitude before throwing the trident and getting higher again, to fake some kind of recoil. And then I will simply polish a bit the curve, create a slight plateau so that he holds a bit in the air, which I do like, and then accelerate down. In the previous videos, I explained you that sometimes you don't need to use the graph editor. It's easier for me to directly pose the head in the 3D view than using the curve trying to achieve what I want. I just wanted to push the head a bit inside so that it drags. Polishing the head right now might not be the priority, but the head does show from the camera view and I was probably bothered by its position. During the blocking stage and the early polishing stage, I explained you that contact pose were the most important, at least for me. So I will make sure that my right hand leaves the ground properly with a bit of dragging, meaning that I will rotate it toward its original point or previous position. In chapter 8, we've seen that pinning a contacting point might not look supernatural, because there are compression, so the foot will deform, and that's the same with the hand. So that would be hard for me to achieve that through the graph editor. So again, I'm just doing it directly in the 3D view. As the character is pushing forward, there is more weight on the hand, so I'm pushing it down and I'm revising the fingers so that they stick to the ground. These are super fine details, but believe me, they will show. Or may I say, if you don't do it, it will show. It's more than often that bad animated part will show more than well animated part, which can be pretty frustrating. But when watching an animation, if you don't spot anything wrong, it's likely someone spent a lot of time polishing everything so that you don't spot any mistake. The same goes whenever you are trying to achieve a realistic portrait, where the eyes are often wrong because it's very hard to get them right. And even not trained artists will spot it right away. They won't be able to tell you what's wrong, but they will see that there is something wrong or unrealistic. And the same goes for animation, whether it's stylized or not. If I was to pin the finger any hand here, it would feel bad. And finally, let me repeat this again so that I'm sure you got it. It will be hard for me to achieve this hand pose through the graph editor, I don't care about the graph editor, I care about what I'm seeing, and for this kind of poses, it's more important to pose directly from a 3D viewport than having nice curves. The graph editor is a powerful tool. It's like my go-to whenever I'm polishing the root or polishing iCase controller, but for some rotation or when I'm doing this kind of smears, that's impossible, at least to me, to create something clean using the graph editor, so I just don't use it. Also, with the level of details I had in my blocking, most of my curves already looks pretty good. So now, for this kind of specific movement, where the character is accelerating a lot, I'm shaping the whole body in the 3D viewport, trying to align all of the character features with its motion path. This is something I love to do and I always try to achieve whenever I'm animating a character, whether it's for a shot like that or for games. I'm a big fan of Ryan Woodward, and if you've seen his Z animation, you will understand what I mean by that. As I scroll through the animation, you can see that here the arms are popping wide open like super fast over one frame. So this is an issue I had to address. And it did show in the graph editor with this big contrast on the X rotation curve, so I just had to soften it a bit. I'm constantly scrubbing through my animation and I check each frame one by one. And this is something you should do. Don't just press the spacebar. Don't forget to play your animation frame by frame using the keys or scrubbing with the mouse. And carefully check each body feature. For example, focus on the head position or head motion, then on the arms, the legs, etc. Sometimes you may spot things to be improved by just playing the animation because something pops, like this arm motion. Sometimes you just need to play frame by frame and focus on those specific elements. Another small but super important detail to me, or something I really enjoy doing, is posing the hands. After the head or face of a character, hands are the second most important point of attention on a character. Whenever you talk to someone, there are big chances that at some point your attention gets caught by his hands. I put a lot in the polishing of this section of the animation so that the hand really looks like a claw that is going to catch the trident. When working on the forearm, it's easier to use the graph editor because it mostly rotates around one axis, the Z-axis currently. Remember that the elbow, the knees, the fingers mostly rotate around one single axis, so often to polish them it's easier to go through the graph editor. When it comes to fingers, I don't necessarily go through the graph editor and polish each curve, I pose them directly, but I make sure that I just rotate around their main axis. I dealt with the trident spawn a bit as I did whenever the character was dropping from it. The animation is so fast that I'm just posing the trident frame by frame as if it was a 2D drawing. Just think of it as a simple curve that is spinning in the air, so it will have this nice S shape, and it dries in its fall from the center of the rotation. For most of its silhouette, I need to use the trigger bone to shape it as I want. That's not a big deal honestly, since they are all parented to the main controller of the trident that I'm spinning in the air. So you can see that I'm polishing a lot and addressing a lot of issues, not even looking at the graph editor using the curves. And this is where, to me, 3D animation can meet with 2D animation, where you just focus on the shape you have on your screen. And I no longer care about the technology, but the result. Another detail of the animation that has become one of my favorites gave me quite a lot of work and quite a lot of difficulties. When you watch the animation during the blocking and you focus on the feet, you can see that there is a lot of up and down motion. Because the feet are used as a counterweight for the arms, so when the right arm is raising, the left knee is raising. As the left arm goes forward, the right leg goes forward. During the throw, as the right arm goes forward, the left knee goes forward. So it was pretty easy to block this out, but then when it comes to splining and polishing this with the interpolation, it took me quite a lot of time to take a decision and test different ideas. And in the end, to be able to shuffle those feet, I used some kind of cycling motion. It's like a galloping horse or a cat or a dog that is trying to swim. I really enjoy it. as if the character was trying to step or push the air with his feet. To achieve this, I played a lot with the location curve of the feet in the graph editor. From there, it was all about creating the nicest arc I could possibly do, and then play with the rotation of the feet so that they drags. The foot location leads from the ankle, and then the rotation of the foot makes the tip of the foot dragging. And then you should learn extra overlapping motion using the toes controllers. Once I was done with this, I used the same method we have seen in the previous chapter to polish the arms. I'm tracking their arcs using the tweaker bones. I'm just calculating the motion path from the tweaker bones using the different joints like the elbow and then the wrist. Whether it's through the graph editor or directly by posing my character, I make sure that the hands and the wrist create a nice arc. Here you can see I have some hard angles in my motion path, and I will readjust the orientation of the arm bone so that I can create a better arc. This doesn't require great skill. I'm just watching the arcs, going pose to pose, and when I see a hard angle like here, I reposition the arm bone. This is why I always try to get a satisfying center of gravity motion before working on the extremities of the character, as I then just need to track the arcs of my extremities, the hands, the feet, and fix them.